This Voice Registry podcast is brought to you by voicebank.net. Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Pattin, and I am back again with Dominic Catrambone at his studio, his home studio. So
Hi.
Great to be here again, Dominic.
Thanks for having me back again.
So last time we were talking about your career and how you got to this point now where you're doing campaign after campaign. How you figured out your voice, you figured that what you do best, and
Right.
you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And so now let's talk about the future of your career, the internet. How has that changed your career?
Well, the internet has certainly been a huge thing, I think. What's changed is things like Voicebank, which obviously has been a great asset to me because you can sign on to voicebank.net and listen to house reels, which is something in terms of staying competitive. Certainly, I listen to everything. I find myself that my ear has been tuned and I test myself to, pick out people I've heard before, people I just talked to in the lobby at my agent's office, people I know in the business. It's like,
so you're constantly studying?
Constantly studying, and without even necessarily knowing it. I mean, it's not something where I sit there and I stare at my TV or I sit in my car and I just listen to the radio, but I find myself not turning away from radio commercials the way I maybe used to. Or
Isn't it
watching
funny?
TV commercials now instead. And I mean,
Right.
I'll sit there and I'll point it out to my wife and I'll be like, oh, that's so-and-so from my agent's office, or that's
Right.
so-and-so from wherever. And she'll be like, really? I'm like, yeah.
Do you ever find yourself,
recognize.
Dominic, just like I'll find myself driving the car and a commercial will come on and I'll listen to the commercial for the voiceover. I can't believe I'm sitting here really listening to the commercial. I forget.
Exactly. Something else that I do that I find helps is, I've got kind of a mind for remembering what it is I've read for.
Uh-huh.
A lot of times the jobs that you don't book, you learn from when you hear them.
Okay, right.
Because I'll see a TV spot and I'll go, that's not anything close to what they were looking for. Not when I read it.
So even when the specs say one thing, you find that they're different, right?
You'll see that it'll air and it'll be something totally different.
They change their mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you'll see what they did book and it was within maybe my range, but you go, okay, that was the read they were maybe going for, or there's a slight difference in voice, whatever it may be. But all that stuff, I think, helps you stay competitive, and the internet has certainly helped because anytime I need to do a voice match, anytime I need a reference to somebody's read, I go to voicebank.net, I pull up a house reel, I find that person, and there you go.
What else do you do to stay competitive? I mean, okay, we're at your home studio.
Yeah, I mean, this is another thing that for me is it makes it easy because I don't live on the west side of town. So
You're telling me.
It takes me a little bit.
It was quite an adventure coming out here, everyone. He lives in a gorgeous area, but it's far from.
It's about a 40-minute drive for me
Yeah.
to get down to my agent's office, which isn't terrible, and I certainly do it as often as I can. But every now and then, because I do a lot of other projects further east from here, Pasadena, Monrovia, places like that, having a home studio gives me the ability to just send an MP3 in and it's on its way.
In a nutshell, what do you have in your home studio? Just describe what we're seeing.
I've got a boom stand with a shock mount and a condenser mic, which is it's similar to the Neumann. And I have a MBox 2 Mini with Pro Tools.
Okay.
And I have my MacBook laptop, and that's pretty much all I need.
And it's travel friendly, right?
Travel friendly, absolutely. Everything breaks down into 2 very small containers, and I can throw them in a backpack or
so when you go home to Chicago to visit your family, you bring your...
I take it anywhere I go. I usually take it with me so that I'm capable. As long as I have a quiet space and the ability to, hook up to the internet somewhere to send the MP3 off. It's
8 years ago, Dominic, that we weren't doing that.
Not even possible now.
So it's
and
pretty
that's
amazing.
Just it, everything is internet at this point. Even demos and stuff like that. I can recut my own demos here now if I've got something that, say I get a new spot, I can recut my own demo, create an MP3 of it, and do something with it, as opposed to having to always go and cut CDs and get CDs pressed and burn and blah, blah, blah.
What do you do when you get your jobs and how do you market? How do you sort of keep in touch with people? What's your strategy with that, with the clients?
I try to make sure that I get my jobs every time I go in. Usually what I'll do is I'll book the job, I'll go to the studio, and I will ask them when it's over if I can either get an email from them or give them my email to the producer or somebody who's willing to do that. Usually the ad agencies are very willing to do that. And then once the spot goes to air and they're okay to basically release it, I will get either an MP3 of it if it's a radio spot, or I'll get a QuickTime file of it sent to me if it's a TV spot. So I've got a digital file there. And it's a good way for me to stay in contact with them because it's one of those things where, you go on the session and I'll often send maybe a little thank you note, personally handwritten every now and then, depending on how big the spot is or whatever.
To the client, to the ad agency?
Yeah, to the ad agency usually. But this is another just form of communication because I can drop them an email, like, let's say 2-3 weeks after the spot, after the session, the recording session, and say, hey, it was a great session. I'm just, just checking in and seeing if you guys have gotten that stuff up and running yet, or oh, I saw it on TV. Just wondering if I can get that quick time. And then they respond and go, oh, hey, great to hear from you. Yeah, it was a good session.
And it's great it keeps you in front of them, right?
Keeps you in front of them. Keeps
your
you
name in
kind of
front
on top of their mind. And it's just one of those little extra things you can do that helps your agent out because they're out there pounding the pavement for you and doing all this behind the scenes work. And usually you don't have any contact with the ad agencies or any of those people. So it's just a little way that you can actually help with that.
Right. You're doing just what you can do for and so what is your advice to anyone starting out in the business or even to people that have been in voiceover work for a long time?
My first piece would be to listen to everything.
Seems like that comes up every single time.
Yeah, it comes up everything. Yeah, and mostly just to know what's current and what's working.
So studying like you do with watching what's on TV, listening for that.
Exactly.
And
going
radio.
Oh, that's interesting the way they went up on that word as opposed to going down on that word. Or just little pieces like that. Getting in a class, if you haven't actually been behind a mic, it can be a very different thing, I think, to listen to yourself. Yeah. Some people hate to listen to themselves.
But when you get into voiceover, you better start liking your voice, right?
Yeah, exactly. And knowing your voice more than anything. Whether or not you like it, it's knowing it. And I think it's one of those things where you just have to know what you can do with it. A lot of people say, "Oh, you've got a great voice. You should get in voiceover." That's something even going back to Chicago and having my family any aunts and uncles and cousins and all that who listen, and sometimes they'll say something like, "Oh, so-and-so's got a great voice," and it's like, sure, having a great voice is good, but it's a really hard thing to get by on in this business, because you have to know what to do with it. And I think that's something that is key to doing that. Yeah.
Hey, and so just in wrapping up here, let's talk briefly about your other business that you're doing, Discovery Onstage.
Discovery Onstage.
And what's that?
It's a youth theatrical education company that a friend of mine and I started, another actor, and he and I, we work out in Monrovia. We're based in Monrovia, and we have summer camps and after school programs. We're part of the Monrovia Unified School District out there, so we do all of their theatrical educational programs and ongoing classes. We've got some other projects coming up. It's basically something that we feel like we can bring our experience
it's giving
to
back.
A whole group of kids that have the ability to. It's not as easy for people out that direction to necessarily come all the way down into somewhere like West LA or whatever, and
it probably still helps you as an actor too to be out there and involved with kids. And
it's great, and it's great to see. It's great to see the progress that they make when you actually impart your whatever wisdom.
And it must be fun. It must be fun for them to turn on the TV and hear you.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty cool. It's always fun, You do. I did a Hannah Montana video game, and I was the voice of her brother. And you mentioned that, and everybody
they go crazy. So you're a celebrity.
Wow.
That's so great. What is the website for that?
It's www.discoveryonstage.com.
Perfect.
And we've got our upcoming summer camp, and it's a great opportunity.
Well, we will look for you and listen for you, Dom, and the best of luck. And thank you for all of your insights.
This Voice Registry podcast was brought to you by voicebank.net. Join us next time.